Hey everybody, welcome back to Slavic Saturday, where we talk about Slavic history, mythology, and folklore. My name is Brendan Noble, author of the Frostmarked Chronicles, which is my fantasy series based on Slavic mythology. This week we return to our series on dragons, following last week's video on the Zhmi, with a type of Zhmi specific to certain folktales called the Chudo-Yudo, who guards the underworld of Navia. Before I dive too far into Chudo-Yudo though, if you are interested in tales about Slavic mythology, be sure to check out my series The Frostmarked Chronicles. The first book, A Dagger in the Winds, is coming out on June 15th. On many retailers, you can check out the links down in the description below to where you can pre-order or buy if you're watching this later. And then also, if you would like to be able to get the prequel novella, The Rider in the Night, for free, you can join my newsletter down below, where you'll be able to receive both that novella for free and all the future side novellas as well associated with the series. You'll also be able to see exclusive early insights into the main books in the series as well. But now, let's dive into talking more about Chudo-Yudo. So like last week's discussion about the Zhmi, the Chudo-Yudo exhibits many of these qualities that kind of separate a Slavic Zhmi from a kind of typical European dragon that we see in most Western mythology stories. Particularly, he's seen as with multiple heads, he can breathe fire, and he also has the cunningness to face different heroes instead of just brute force, though he does have brute force as well. On top of that, though, he is also a shapeshifter, which is a major aspect of being a Zhmi. One of these appearances comes from a Russian tale or skazki called The Battle on Kalinov Hill, where Chudo-Yudo appears as potentially as a dragon, but also as a man riding a horse or even a horse itself. So this tale begins when a kingdom that isn't really named, but it is being attacked by Chudo-Yudo. That's said that he is burning villages and attacking innocent people, and that it is raining destruction, and the people are starting to fear in the village of Ivan and his brothers. His parents are talking about this, and Ivan decides that they must go and confront Chudo-Yudo. And so he convinces his parents and his brothers, and he takes his brothers along with him to what is called the Smorodina River, also which translates to the Stinking River in English. And that is a river that separates the realm of the living from the realm of the dead in Slavic mythology, the realm of the living being Yavia or Yav, and the realm of the underworld being Navia or Nav. And so this river was pictured as being a flame and being impossible to cross except over what is called the Kalinov Bridge. And at this bridge is where Chudo-Yudo is claimed to live, specifically beneath the bridge. So at first, Ivan in the story decides to face Chudo-Yudo by himself, leaving his brothers sleeping in the cabin. And so when he faces Chudo-Yudo the first time, Chudo-Yudo has 6 heads. He's either pictured as a dragon or riding a horse, along with a black raven and black dog at his side. He threatens Ivan, claiming that he can easily defeat him, but Ivan slices off all 6 of his heads and then chops him up, and then goes back to the cabin to sleep. But when he returns the next night, Chudo-Yudo is there again with 9 heads this time. Again, Ivan cuts off his heads and chops him up, but when he goes back to sleep and comes back the third time, Chudo-Yudo has returned with 12 heads, and it's said in this form he has taken the form of a horse, with all these heads still being fire-breathing, but his mane is copper and his tail is iron. Despite this many heads that Chudo-Yudo now has, Ivan tries to slice them off, specifically slicing off 3, and then Chudo-Yudo uses a fiery finger, sliding it across the stump where the head used to be, and regrows the heads instantly. And each time Ivan tries this, he realizes that Chudo-Yudo can just heal his heads now. And using a whistle to stun Ivan, and then breathing fire and showering sparks on top of Ivan, Chudo-Yudo defeats the hero. But Ivan realizes he needs his brothers. He takes off his shoes and his hat, throwing it into the cottage to try to get their attention. Eventually, he does, and the brothers rush out to his aid. And they realize that to defeat Chudo-Yudo, they have to cut off his finger to stop him from being able to drag the fiery finger across the stumps and heal his heads. So they do that. They manage to cut off his finger and then slice off all of his heads, chopping him up and then throwing him into the Smorodina River. and now he never recovers the heads and does not return. So this story and Chudo-Yudo's story in general draws comparisons to the Greek Hydra, which also regrows its heads when they're cut off. Especially if you've seen the movie Hercules, you would know that. And it appears both of these creatures can appear as a dragon-like being, so it's kind of interesting that perhaps there was some cross-cultural exchange here, or perhaps they're just unique creatures that have very similar ideas as well. Chudo-Yudo's role in Slavic mythology, though, is kind of a complex one, and one we can't really nail down exactly. The Smordina River and the Kalinov Bridge represent an important divide between Yavia, the realm of the living, and Navia, the realm of the dead, and Chudo-Yudo's representation as the barrier between them is perhaps a guardian preventing anyone who's not supposed to get into Navia from getting there. Because Navia is a paradise, perhaps beings that don't belong there would try to enter. Or perhaps, because the stories say that reaching Navia could be a difficult journey for souls, perhaps he is the final thing that a soul must confront, though I believe we'd probably hear more stories and folklore about having to fight the dragon to get to the Underworld if that was the case. It is also said that Morana, the goddess of winter and death, has her castle on the other side of the Kalinov Bridge, so it's perhaps that Chudo-Yudo is associated with goddess of winter and death as well. But it's hard to draw too many conclusions because of lack of primary sources and also Slavic mythology having many different regional differences. And in the Frostmarked Chronicles and my own stories, I definitely am going to be including Chudo-Yudo in some way. I won't expose exactly what that is right now because to do so would definitely be a spoiler. But like the other Shmi in the story, he will definitely not be appearing in A Dagger in the Wind as the first book, but he will be appearing later in the series as things perhaps get a little bit more magical as things go along. But if you want to hear more, you'll have to read the stories yourself and see how the story evolves. And that's all I have for you today on this Slavic Saturday video. If you enjoyed it, please remember to like and subscribe down below. I come out with these videos every Saturday.